Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Restoring Eden. This is Subin and Sini. Thank you for joining us. Hey guys, I know that all of us are hearing this, or most of you who are hearing this during the COVID-19 time. For those who are in the future or have not heard this episode till now and in the future sometime when you're listening to it, in 2019 in December, the coronavirus or something known as the COVID-19 started spreading on Wuhan in China and then got spread around the whole world. And as of the recording, there are almost 2 million people diagnosed with this virus. A lot of people have been tested. There are lots of cases in UK, in USA, in Germany, in France, in Spain, in Italy, and a few 10,000, 12,000 cases even in India, and something around 1,000 to 2,000 cases in Australia and New Zealand and stuff like that. And we are at such a time as that, where things around us, or things that we always thought, hey, these things are stable stuff, like my job, my family, my friend, the time I come to meet in small groups or hang out with my friends, my evening walk, my shopping routine, those simple things. I'm not talking about like big stuff, but even the simple stuff started crumbling around us. Like those who are in the Western world and even in other parts of the world know that if you went to shop, you would have to wait in a huge line. Only a few people are allowed to shop at a time, so you try to go and shop at odd times. You try to do things that you have not done before. And for a huge lot of people, like even I, had projects cancelled, and you're basically sitting at home trying to figure out what do I do next. And there is this uncertainty cloud that just surrounds us, and there is a feeling of vulnerableness, like we are so uncomfortable in this place. Whatever we thought was stable has suddenly decided to go away. And this is a time that I believe that we come to God and say, and find that He is a stable one. The funny thing is, yesterday evening I was walking out, and it was quite late in the evening. It was 7, 8. I wanted to have a break, and because of the coronavirus, the number of cars in the village reduced, and number of cars reduced means the sky is becoming clearer, and it was almost evening. Sunset's a bit late here, 7 o'clock sunset, so you could still have the sunset and the moonrise phase going on. So there was moon and the sun at the same time. The skies were not blackish, but they were like blue, purplish, and reddish here and there. And in that moment, I kind of looked up and I just saw this beautiful star. I think that was a North Star. I used an app to find out that, and it was standing there, and I kind of realized that people always followed the North Star because it always had kept a permanent place. And I was thinking, the entire coronavirus incident tells us that nothing that we look as permanent in our life is that way. So I have family, we all have families who are going through a lot of troubles at this moment. I know very closely a family of mine whose wife has to work, the husband is in another country, the children 9 and 4 are stuck alone at home. The wife comes back every evening after a whole day, 10 hours shift, because she's a nurse, and cooks food, leaves the food out for the kids to serve themselves and eat, and then goes back to the next shifts sometimes, or the next day morning. And this is a very strange time, and I believe This is a time that we see many things happen. One, we see that our thoughts of permanence just really changes. What do you think, Sini?
Yeah, for me personally, I have discovered that my entire normal life is quarantine life. So I don't really have a lot of things different. I do miss meeting people. What I miss the most is for my son. I miss that he cannot meet his friends and that he just has to stay home. By the way, we enjoy the time that we get with him. And I'm quite grateful that we get to be with him and that I could spend some time doing some stuff with him. I get to do some of my hobbies. It's a good time for me. At the same time, it's been a time where I can focus a bit more in the word. I can think about what all of this means and what is God doing. What on the good side, I do see that people have there's a lot of things that keep us busy in life, and I think this is a time sort of fasting from all of this, from meeting external friends. Like all the resources are just cut off, not fully, but for some people, yes, fully. And we have this place in our homes behind our locked doors or without having locked doors to just run to God. And I think this time just separates us to come to God if we are willing, because there might be a lot of people who are suffering on the contra side of this, who have to face this loneliness and who have to face things at home, who have to face the not so good stuff that is at home, and the people who have to, you know, choose. Not have to choose, people who choose sin because of the temptation that they cannot distract themselves away from, like pornography and like abuse and things like that. So that's my side, and for me personally, it's been a really nice time. I've been going to work too, and work is meeting patients, meeting a lot of people with fears, having my own fears of bringing the virus home. But God has been good. He's been taking care of us. Yeah, that's what's been happening on our side. So I'll pass it on to my husband.
Such a time as this has never been for us. Like, we've always lived in a different fast-paced life. I think I speak for all of us. Like, okay, there were times that after our studies, when we didn't find the right job, so when you were between jobs, there was a certain point of time where we had time. But for those who are already married and those who are already working, very rarely do we have ever got such a time as this. I think there were those good stuff that happened. Like, we got dads and moms who were normally busy getting more involved in the kids' life. I got time to play with Zach even more than the times I got when I was working. At the same time, there are this stuff that has also changed our family dynamics. Now, Cindy being a doctor, she has to go to work and she cannot escape from that place, that she has to show her a service to the community and to her job giver. And I get to be in that place where she used to be, like cook food, try and ensure the house is a bit clean, take care of my son. Not just that I keep him alive, but engage him, talk to him stories, play with him, get things done, help him grow in wisdom, or get him a new skill, show him how to cook pizzas. It has been interesting. It has been fun. It has been also really tiring. And I mean, I got a new respect for moms in that sense. Like the whole day being in the kitchen and cleaning and running behind a child. Yeah, that is a really exhausting work. I mean, uh, being behind the desk is also exhausting, but then not in this manner because you are being occupied by all your senses. Like you smell something bad, you're like, oh my gosh, has he pooped? Oh, well, that is a funny thing because we are actually toilet training him. It has been going really good. We would give a short um, description on how that can, you guys can incorporate that if you have kids and you are also looking for toilet training in another episode. Um, but there are those things, like, and I really like how roles are being switched, but then she's still my wife, I'm still the husband, and that kind of stays the same. I mean, what I do now does not make me any less of a man, and what I did before does not make me any more of a man, and I kind of really like that. The other side of it where people, even young ones, students, singles, sometimes married people, um, have taken this time as a time to involve into pornography. And actually, even many of us who have been free from such an addiction have said it online that in private groups to keep them in prayers so that they don't fall back into pornography because they don't have anything to do. I was just reading through a lot of technical websites that track usages of certain pornography websites, that there were huge spikes from the time of corona, cases being reported and lockdown being reported. In fact, certain pornographic sites have used such an opportunity to give incentives like additional movies or something, I have no idea, into the public so that they get more hits on their website and thereby increase their website's value. And this is a bad thing. I mean, this is a place where we would see marriages fall because whatever is described is either illegal or unreal, and we would find this as being a curse on our land, when it's a time that we would wish that people would all rethink and look at their life at a bigger perspective. There are also the hardships like pastors face in learning new skills, like learning to go online, preach online, try to keep their church working online, churches struggling to meet in person. Like we have been also struggling like that, where we want to engage with the people more naturally, but because we had to do things online, it had been hard. Some ways that I could recommend is like write letters and stuff like that, and there are these struggles that go through. And I think one of the biggest struggles also for family life is, this is probably one of the few times the husband and wife have been in such a place as this, alone and together. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when I mean husband and wife are alone and together, it's not like they are alone. They're not alone and together. But what I mean is, they have not been busy for a long period of time. And therefore, the chances of us creating new conflicts, or chances of us wandering into unwanted conflicts, are really high. Like, this is a time when people on internet, in certain private groups on Facebook, with believers that I have been telling there are two sides that happen. Either kids are going to be born in December, or families actually going to break down, which is the saddest part. because till now they have never been into a place of pressure that, especially newlyweds and people who are less than 7 to 10 years old, 10 years in married life, have never faced that pressure of like being stuck with one person for a long time. Even if you are talking to your parents, your family, your friends, it's all over the phone, and the freedom to express yourself feels to be taken away. And this is something that we have to pray for families, that they manage not just to stick together, but learn to love, learn to show patience, learn to show this compassion for the other person in a much deeper manner, because this is what married life is all about. It's about a man and woman getting to know each other through the thick and thin, and this is a really hard time. And this is part of our vows that we said to our spouses, like through good times and bad times. And that is something that we all have to pray for, that our friends and our families, they don't come to a place where, because of such isolation, because of being in super close contact with other, just get on each other's nerves, and but rather find this time to improve their married life, to talk on things that they were not able to talk about, and build back the joy of being married to each other.
So yeah, I agree with him on that. We have to learn a lot from each other, with each other through this time. We have to love each other in a way of maintaining a distance, that others who are around us don't get sick. At the same time, keep the faith in our hearts. We have a God who has told us that do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, and He is with us. He is with us through everything that we go through. He is with us through good times and in the bad times. So in these times, when these are trying times, we can pray that Lord would show us, would open our eyes to see the details, the tiny things that He's doing, the big things that He's doing. Give us patience to wait and pray, wait on Him to see what He's doing. Yeah, that's basically what we want to conclude with. And I really wish you all a very, very peaceful time through this. I pray that those who are grieving will receive strength from the Lord. I pray that those who are confused would look to the Lord for just peace in their hearts, because sometimes we don't understand what's going on around us. But it's okay. It's okay that we don't understand what's going on. We don't understand why these times have to come. But let's pray that God opens our eyes to things that we don't see, or to give us the heart to wait on Him. There has been something that we've been watching together, which is really, really cool, and did help me and Subin to fix our eyes a bit more on our Lord, because He understands us in our weakness, and He sees us as we are, and He is willing, more than willing, to love us and help us through this time. And I'm really glad that the Easter time actually came between this, because this was the time where all the churches were closed, and there was no show of there's no pretense or anything of that sort. People had to stay at home and to understand that yes, Jesus came, yes, Jesus died for us, and yes, Jesus is risen from the dead, and that we could think about that in our own hearts, really, without anything on the outside, just in our hearts, to understand really the truth that we are loved, and that we are purchased with a huge price, and that we are loved. Yeah, so Subin wants to tell us something more about The Chosen, which is the series that we've been watching.
Yeah, the series Chosen. I mean, we are going to come back with The Chosen a number of times later in the podcast because we really like it. So The Chosen was first ever aired in 2017. Surprising, because it's only 2020 that I've watched. But then they've been making episodes throughout 2019 actually. So that makes also sense. They had a Christmas special, I think, in 2017. So what is Chosen? Chosen is a TV series made by this guy named Chad Gunderson and Justin Tolley. And they have this idea that the stories that we read in the gospel has a bigger background story, and they have used their creative imagination to see how Peter would behave, or how Mary of Magdala is, or Matthew is, and they have just used their creative liberties. But then they have not tried to alter the way any of the words Christ said or any of the words people said, but rather try to add in the historical and a social narrative. Like how we always know that Matthew was a tax collector, but we don't realize that he was hated by the Jewish people. Or we know that Peter was a fisherman, but we don't kind of realize why Peter suddenly said, "Oh Lord, I'm an unclean man." I mean, some of those things may be just the creator's imagination, and some of the things are understood from historical contexts. But what they have done is they've just taken all of those together and produced something that's worth sharing even to non-believers. In fact, it was never meant or made like a Christian movie for Christians to watch, or Christian series for Christians to watch, but rather it is made in a way that anyone could watch and then associate themselves or their situation to some person and know that Christ is the one that saved those people. And it is well made. It's unlike any Hollywood Christian movie, or Christian movie that comes from a Hollywood perspective, quite altered, or unlike a Christian production where it's heavily focused on Christian theology that only the Christians understand. They have somehow found a good balance. Said, yeah, there is creative ideas into it, but at the same time, there are also Christian values in it, and that is something that we would recommend. So you could all watch The Chosen, this entire series, for free by downloading the Chosen app. It has a picture of a man on a black background. That is available on Android and iOS, and there you can watch the entire series free. Or I think sometimes you get to only watch the 4 series, and then someone has already paid for it, or you can pay for it. And or on VidAngel, that's VID for video, and Angel, which is like a streaming service, but then it's for families. It has a lot of filters that, if you're watching with kids, you can say, okay, I don't want to watch this scene, I don't want to hear these kind of words said, etc. And so The Chosen is so good that we recommend it. I have watched up to the entire 8 episodes in the first season, and to be honest, I have not found any huge theological errors. They have never portrayed Christ in a way that Christ did not seem from the Bible. It's always as he is in the Bible. And that is one plug-in from what we've been doing. In fact, we binged watched it, although I was not a huge fan of it. And like we were saying, this is a good time to remember what is really permanent. There's a song called One Thing Remains, a very old song, written by the Vineyard, Mercy, Jeremy Little, and it goes like, constant through all the trials and change, one thing remains, that his love never fails and never gives up. I mean, it's not just his love, it's more than his love. It's everything about him never changes and never gives up on us. And that is something that, we could hold on. For those of you who are interested in talking to people about coronavirus, or who are interested in the entire why there's such a disease, or how do we talk about coronavirus and God, especially when people ask us where is God in coronavirus, John Lennox, emeritus professor of mathematics in University of Oxford, a great philosopher, he has written a wonderful short book whose PDF can be bought, or the audio can be also downloaded for free. The book is called Where is God in a Coronavirus World? It is available by the Good Book company. That's the goodbook.co.uk. You could find Where is God in a Coronavirus World. The ebook and the paperback are available now, and it's a wonderful short read. Those who are interested in a more theological depth, John Piper has published again a book on God and coronavirus, and that is available on Desiring God. So at this time, as we conclude, we thank you for listening, and we want to encourage families that this is a time that we have been called to not just build our faith, but the faith in each other, the strength to love each other, and not just for us, even with our colleagues, our friends, people we talk on WhatsApp and so on, that this time is something that only our generation has got. Never before has ever been a lockdown, except for political cases in some places, but then as a whole world. So when we speak to our neighbors, our colleagues, especially families, we should encourage them, and we have this beautiful opportunity to share the gospel, not just that Jesus came and died and loves you, and in that short form, but in a bigger form of as an encouragement, in acts of love, with elderly, like shopping for them. I don't know, you guys know it far better than me, and find this time as a place and a people to be the light of the world. So God bless you all. Thank you for listening to us, and tune in back, and we are going to get back more episodes soon. Thank you guys. You connect with us on Twitter with the handle RestoringEdenDE, and on Facebook and Instagram with the handle RestoringEden.de.